So today is I was actually kind of going over what we've done, and it's this particular course. Well, I think I just love it so much because they go very slowly into trying to develop an awareness of what's going on with our thinking in our minds. Like we're so flooded with thoughts, we just can't even recognize that we're even thinking half the time. And so what we did last week, we used discerning wisdom to try and get this idea of, oh gosh, I'm actually thinking right now. So, I mean, how often do you stop in the day and recognize that you are dealing with the flood of thoughts in your mind? We don't. We just kind of get overwhelmed with emotion and get carried away with it. So I think what is so wonderful about this particular course is that it's breaking it down very, very slowly. So today we're moving a little bit more into functional thinking. At the very beginning, we looked at the importance of concentration. So you need concentration in a way to be able to discern what is actually going on in your mind. So that's where we kind of started. So I think what we'll do today is we will start with a little bit of concentration. Of course, we'll do a motivation. So, of course, whenever you do any meditation session, you start with the motivation, anyway, in terms of Buddhism. And then you set the body, and then you do your little concentration, and then do a little dedication. So most of the sessions that you'll do in any kind of Buddhist organization, it has pretty much those four elements in it. So whether you're doing an actual meditation or a guru puja or a practice or this or that, that's pretty much the format. It's pretty simple. So today, let's just start. Actually, why don't I just check in with everybody? How's everyone doing? Does anyone have anything? This group is pretty shy, and then once you start meditating, you all sort of go inwards, and then I can't find you again. So I don't know if that's kind of a good sign. When you do yoga, they call it yoga stoned when you come out of the class and everyone's like, but sometimes I feel we got a little bit meditation stoned. Anyway, so again, I would advise at the end of the session, please don't just jump in your car and drive somewhere. Give yourself a little bit of time, have some hot water, and just come back to earth. And maybe I'll do a little meditation at the end to help ground everybody once we've finished. So,
Katie, to answer your question, how's everybody doing?
yes,
I can tell you how I'm doing.
I'd love to hear, Susan.
Thank
Let
you.
us know.
My mind has been scattered like going 100 miles an hour today, just going in all kinds of directions.
Ah,
And it has to do with uh, I'm very upset about all the wars, I just sometimes it really gets me. Some other times I can shut it out. It doesn't stays in the background, but I saw a picture of a little girl in Palestine, Gaza, who had been killed, and it just put me in a really
oh,
bad place. And
mm.
I just almost can't stand it sometimes. Anyway, so that's how I'm doing.
I'm so sorry. I wish they wouldn't put such emotive, triggering photographs up on, this media. And they do it just to, I don't know. It is really too much. I agree.
It was very triggering, and they even recorded her voice when she was in a car trying to escape with her parents, and they got through to her on the phone. Her whole family had been killed, and they were trying to talk to her to find out exactly where she was, and they couldn't. And the whole
Oh,
thing was,
that's
I mean,
intense. Yeah,
yeah,
that's really
it's
intense.
bad to put up that triggering stuff, but on the other hand, it's people are experiencing it, firsthand. So anyway, meditation will help. I know that.
I think also too, we can't necessarily do anything. I don't know to what extent the politicians that we vote for can make any difference or do make any difference. The only thing that we can do ourselves is we can do all these prayers and practices. It's almost like when someone dies, someone that's close to you dies, and you kind of feel completely hopeless, helpless. You don't know what to do. It's almost like you don't want to do the wrong thing. You don't know what the right thing is. But what we can do is we have a bunch of prayers and practices that we can actually do. We can send mantras out into the universe, and we can direct those mantras to those people. We can direct the mantras to the minds of the politicians. And, I don't know 100% whether it works or whether it reaches them or what. My only experience with this kind of thing is, most recently, my direct experience with this kind of thing is when Lama Zopa Rinpoche advised us to do these certain mantras during the pandemic when it first started. And I was very careful. Physically, I was very careful. I wore face masks, and I not only had a face mask, I had a shield and I had gloves. Every time I went shopping, I just kind of looked like some really weird person. But I just was not interested in getting COVID because I didn't want it in my lungs. And Rinpoche had recommended that we do these certain mantras, and they had this beautiful stupa out the back. So every day I would go and do them. And then when I moved up here to Marin in 21, so we were still kind of just coming out of the pandemic, whatever. Sometimes I would feel like I was coming down with something. It would be like a throat, or I would feel really, really tired for a couple of days. And then I would do these mantras, really, the mantras that Rinpoche had recommended, the practices for COVID. And, it would just go away. And I can't really explain it, other than, and then even more recently, I had I did a COVID test. I had been exposed to somebody, and I had a very faint pink line. So my neighbors who are nurses were like, oh, yeah, definitely, you're positive. And so I did, Yangtze Rinpoche also advised to drink lots of crushed ginger in hot water. So that was Yangtze Rinpoche said, that'll get rid of it, So I did that plus all of Lama Zopa Rinpoche's mantras, and imagine it's sort of like reducing the virus. And then the next day I did another test, and that pink line had gone. So I don't know, either it was a false negative or what, I don't know. But I found maybe it was just also my belief in the fact that they did work. I don't know. But it just seems to me, and these pujas, that get done at Kopan, you can write to Kopan Monastery and request a puja for a friend or for this or for that. And this friend of mine in Australia, they're not Buddhist. They were quite wealthy. They were dentists. She was a psychologist. And her daughter had no need to be doing this, but she was stealing money from her purse in order to buy drugs. And then, so of course, my friend Kate was really, really upset. And so I had organized a puja for her at Kopan. And she didn't know the time that the puja had been done. And then all of a sudden she said, Katie, she stopped stealing. And that was around about the time that the puja had been done. So I don't know how all this works, and I don't even know if it's just coincidence, but I think there is some, if not for anybody else, there's definitely benefit for ourselves to be doing these kinds of practices. And if we have time at the end of the day, maybe we can do a quick Chenrezig meditation, Buddha of compassion, and imagine sending all those mantras out. So today, maybe we can dedicate the merit that we create, so we can motivate for that little girl and her family, and maybe anybody else in Palestine and anyone involved in any war. It's just kind of crazy to me that people are in a position in this day and age that we have to go through that. It's heartbreaking. It really, really is. So the other thing that I did was I sort of stopped looking at it because it just got too distressing. And I think if you know it's happening, there's no need to know about the details. And if you find it really triggers you, my strong suggestion would be that perhaps not to look at it too frequently. And then you can do all the prayers and practices because it is going on. And then maybe every now and then just check in the written version rather than the video version of what's happening. And
That's a good idea. I appreciate all of that. It was actually a really big story in the Washington Post, which normally I try to stay away from that news. I
well,
don't
I
watch
mean,
it
I
on
think you can, if you can read it, it's fine. But sometimes our visual imagination gets a little bit carried away. But that sounds a really, really intense to juxtapose a child's voice and then a dead body within a shed. Just horrible. It's
No,
horrible.
they didn't show a dead body. They showed her live at a graduation. She was only 6 years old and she was wearing a beautiful gown and hat. And she reminded me of my daughter, actually. And they didn't show any graphic death for her.
Oh,
No, it was
oh,
just the story of what happened to her.
oh, they showed the story after. Oh, okay. All right.
They told the story. Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear about that. Okay. Anybody else have anything? No? All right, let's get started. So, we can just, interesting, I talked about the structure of the thing. I tend to get people settled into their bodies before a motivation. So I'm doing a little bit the other way around. So if you're sitting at your desk with the feet down, imagine your feet are flat on the floor. Really try and feel the soles of the feet on the floor, the heels, the toe mound, the pinky mound, the side of the foot. Hips about it, your knees about a hip's width apart. If you are sitting cross-legged and your hips are tight, you can perhaps put a couple of cushions underneath either knee. Shoulders aligned with the hips. And now just imagine you have this spine that is made of light and pearls. And there's a string there. And you can imagine there's maybe someone above you just very gently pulling that string. So you're just lengthening. Or maybe you imagine someone's got a strand of hair, crown of the head, just very gently lengthening. And allow your shoulders to drop. And now imagine your ears sliding back and lining up with your shoulders. And just keep lengthening, keep breathing. A little bit of length in the back of the neck. So trying not to allow the head to, pull your shoulders and your neck forward. A little bit of length, but staying aligned. And then just bring your awareness to the crown now and allow a little bit of softness to come into the crown of the head. So release any tension. And then release any tension at the hairline and the forehead and the eyes and the back of the eyes, and the nose and the cheeks, the back of the tongue. Allow some relaxation in your jaw. This is a place where we hold a lot of tension. You can even think about relaxing the back of the throat. Relax the back of the head, the neck, and allow your shoulders again to drop. Just allow a little bit of softness there, shoulder blades to drop down. One thing you can do to counteract a little bit of slump in the upper back is to imagine at your sternum there's maybe another string of light that's just kind of lifting you upwards and forwards. But as you're doing this, try not to arch your back. It's just and keep the ribs in. I know there's a lot. It's just to counteract this kind of slow, gradual moving towards getting kyphosis as we all get older. So keep yourself nice and tall. In my chiropractor's office, there is a note that says stand tall. All right. And now just relax, breathe, and notice the sensation of the air as you're inhaling and exhaling. You can just maybe feel the sensation of the air as it flows in through the nostrils. Maybe just you can notice the little hairs that we have as you inhale and exhale. As we go through this settling process, just notice yourself coming inwards. We have a nice big chunk of time here where we can, just for ourselves, where we can go inside. And then notice if there are sounds in your environment. So some of you have pets in your home. Some of you have family there, friends there. So just be aware of the sounds that are around and just allow them to be there. So we have this wonderful tendency to be delighted with a little bit of distraction. So just allow it. Allow the sounds. Notice the point at which the mind wants to sort of dart off. And then we come to the mind and just start by noticing what's actually arising there. Last week we looked at recognizing that we were actually thinking. Today we'll look a little bit more closely at what it is we are thinking. But for now, just notice what the thoughts that might be arising. And so those thoughts that aren't necessarily really serving you, just be aware of them. Try not to criticize yourself, give yourself a hard time because they're there. Just notice that they're there and rejoice that you're actually seeing it. It's like, wow, that's very interesting. I did not know that. Now I have something to work with. It's like when you have all this pain and you don't know what it is, and your physician finally diagnoses with you with something that, yes, we can fix that. So we can't deal with what's going on in our mind, in our hearts, with our thoughts until we actually can identify what's there. And that, because of the speed at which our mind works, that requires us to sort of settle a little bit, slow down a little bit. And here in the United States, we live in an instant community. Everything has to be done now and fast. And it's so convenient, but we get kind of used to that. And I think perhaps we expect ourselves to be able to do that as well. Sometimes it's just too much instant. But just allow, that it takes a while for your practice to grow, to percolate. It can take years. So it's not all going to happen overnight, that's for sure. So just notice what's there and take a step back and be objective. And so this beautiful analogy by Mingyur Rinpoche is you're sitting on the bank of a river and you're just watching the river flow on by and you're noticing the quality of the water. Is that river wide? Is it deep? What's it got inside it? Is it running fast or slow? Is it clear? However that river is appearing to you, as long as you're sitting on the bank and you're watching it, you're free from the river. So now let's just bring to mind all the people of our life. So we can start with our loved ones. These are nearest and dearest ones. And bring them to your mind. Look at their features. What are they wearing today? And then there's those ones you really find a little bit irritating, you don't like so much. And then there's us strangers. So many strangers out there. In the store, on the freeway, on the street, in their houses. And these relationships, due to impermanence and karma, they all can change. They change place. So this may have happened to you in your life. You may have had a relationship where you didn't like someone so much, and then they became your best friend. Or you had there was a stranger in your life. Well, someone you kind of knew but didn't, and then all of a sudden they're a very, very important part of your life. And then remember, despite where they are at right now in relation to you, they're all equal in their wish to be happy, their wish to be free from suffering and having this extraordinary capacity for Buddhahood. So we're doing this practice today. As Susan reminded us, there's a lot of war everywhere. Just bring to mind how incredibly fortunate we are where we live. We can spend 2 hours this afternoon uninterrupted, not worrying about survival. All we need to do is worry about, whether we have internet. Are we sitting comfortably? Is it reasonably quiet? We don't have to worry about someone bursting in through the door, bombing us. So we fill our hearts with gratitude because we go, oh gosh, we've got some space where we can actually meditate. How amazing. There we are. Now we've actually touched on a little bit of Lamrim here. We've touched on impermanence. We've touched on precious human rebirth, and we've touched on equanimity. It's always good to bring the Lamrim to mind when you're doing anything in relation to the Dharma. So now you can stay in meditation, and I will start our session. Breathe. And just notice how you are now versus how you were when you walked in through or logged on. I think before we start, let's do some 9-round breathing. I just want to check in with everyone that you've all done this. Everyone knows what 9-round breathing is. Just maybe put up your hand if you don't know what it is. Wait, Marge, you know what it is, right? You do. Okay. I'm like, didn't we just do that? All right.
Could you explain it again, Kate?
I'm happy to. Yeah, I'll lead you through the first round. And I'm leading it the way Lama Yeshe taught it. We have 2 ocean of compassions here. All right. So this 9-round breathing is taught as preliminary for some of the more advanced practices, but I find it an excellent way to ground ourselves and also to kind of bring ourselves into the right frame of mind. So you start by, you can just kind of close the left nostril with the back of the right index finger. So I'm opposite to you. And imagine you're breathing in through the right nostril, blissful, radiant white light. So you can actually inhale for a count of 4 and just pause briefly. It's not a gripping, it's just like almost like a pause, like you have at the top of a swing when you go kind of forwards, and then it's just almost like a floating. And then you block your right nostril and you exhale through the left, all this kind of attachment energy. unhealthy desire, grasping and neediness and anxiety, and all of this kind of, yeah, it's kind of sticky. And you breathe that out as thick, black, yucky smoke, and it disappears into space. And you do that 3 times. So we'll do it 2 more times. And exhale. Exhale. You just imagine all your attachment energy is gone. Now you can, if you wish, you can take the index finger from the left hand, block the right nostril, and breathe in through the left. Again, beautiful light. And just float to the top of that breath, and then exhale through the right. Anger, all your anger energy, depression, bitterness, grudges, fury, vitriol, all of this kind of nastiness. It's just sharp, sharp energy, like shrapnel. Do that 2 more times. And imagine all that anger energy is gone. Now you breathe in through both nostrils, blissful, radiant white light. And again, just float for a second in the top of that breath. And exhale all your ignorance energy. Now in Buddhism, ignorance is not appreciating karma, cause and effect, this law, this natural law that we're all under. It also refers to not understanding or appreciating or even being willing to think about the way things truly exist. So that's under the topic of emptiness. So breathe in blissful, radiant white light, and exhale all your ignorance energy. Again, thick, black, yucky smoke. Do that 2 more times. And if you don't have much experience or understanding of karma or emptiness, you can just say, I'm exhaling all my ignorance. And that can refer to anything. And that's fine for now. All right, we'll do 2 more sets in your own time. So when you're finished, just practice some equal breathing in and out, so an equal counting. So some of you are not quite finished yet, so just while everyone's catching up. And please don't rush the people who are still not finished. And just imagine breathing in for 4. Just float at the top of the breath and then exhale for 4. And so for anyone that finds themselves being slightly triggered by something you've watched or seen, or some conversation you've had, or a situation that's arising in your life, and you're finding it a little bit overwhelming, what you can do is just sit, and this sometimes is really hard to remind yourself to do this actually as well, when we get caught up in our trigger, our own personal dramas and our own anxieties. So just try and remember just to breathe. Tell yourself, breathe. And then you can do this equal breath in and out, equal counting. And maybe just up to 10 times. Could probably take about 5 minutes. And that just gives your mind enough space, to put enough space in between the thoughts for you just to kind of come down from being triggered. Okay. So our first topic for today is mindfulness and functional thinking. So you might have noticed last week when we were talking about discerning wisdom, or just trying to discern what's going on in the mind, you may have become aware of the variety and the extent of what it was you were thinking. And not all thoughts are harmful. Not all thoughts are dysfunctional. In fact, we engage in quite a bit of functional thinking. And this contributes to our success as human beings in adapting to different living conditions, different situations. And you'll notice when you go into certain transitions in your life, whether you're moving or a relationship is changing or shifting, or maybe you have a change in your family dynamic, someone, maybe an elder has passed. You'll notice there's a kind of a change, and then we all have to kind of adapt. So this is, we use functional thinking in order to be able to adapt, and our ability to adapt as a species is what just kind of kept us alive on the planet. So even though now we've made quite a bit of a mess with all the fossil fuels and things we're using, it's kind of been damaging and heating up the planet. There are many, many people out there, scientists, all working together to try and slow it all down. So we're adapting and changing. We're all contributing in our own way, with our own little recycling programs and, the way we use the power in our homes, the way we use our cars. So we adapt. And our ability to think is vital in our problem-solving abilities and in our creativity. So in the practice of mindfulness of thoughts, and when we become a little bit more practiced in this process of recognizing thinking as thinking, which is what we were doing last week, we can refine our power of discernment by differentiating the different types of thinking that we're engaging in. So, thoughts about the past could be considered remembering. Thoughts about planning your trip to Hawaii, planning your trip to Nepal can be thinking as, could be thought as planning. And those involved in fantasies as daydreaming, future tripping. I think Lamia used to talk about future tripping all the time. And in this way, we can become more mindful and wiser in regards to the type of habit energy we have. So mindfulness and discerning wisdom are aided by invoking appropriate functional thinking. And this strengthens the recognition of the nature of these thoughts. So even though we may be using just a few simple terms like remembering or worrying or daydreaming or future tripping, we need to realize that the act of noting or labeling these words or concepts is also a form of thinking. And we can regard this as functional thinking because it serves the function of helping to strengthen the discernment of thoughts as thoughts. So to protect our mind from falling back into believing in and following our involuntary, maybe not also always helpful thoughts. It also helps us to recognize the type of habit thinking mind may tend to get engaged in. And this leads to an understanding of how we react and how that drives our choices, how that drives our actions. And then it helps us to initiate a process of releasing and letting go. And we can just withdraw the investment of our attachment, our attention and belief in the contents of this kind of habit thoughts that are reactive and don't necessarily serve us very well. And then we can sort of get to a point where we can realize that they're not reality. They're not the reality of our life. We have these ideas in our mind about, we develop these scenarios in our mind about what's something that might happen at work, for example. And we run through it in our mind. It hasn't even happened, and we're developing an emotional reaction to it. In fact, we're almost triggering ourselves with our own thoughts. It's really crazy. So we need to kind of get a grip of what is real and what is not real. So we're going to go back and look at the meditation that we did on mindfulness of thoughts. And this time around, try to refine the discernment of thoughts as thoughts by differentiating the types of thinking our attention is involved in. We can replace the label of thinking with others that better reflect what it is we're actually thinking. So the labels are best to be both accurate and neutral in tone, so we don't kind of traumatize ourselves provoking negative judgmental attitudes towards ourselves and our thoughts. So some possible labels could include remembering, planning, daydreaming, worrying, judging, anger, and so on. And in this way, we can become more mindful and maybe a little bit wiser in regards to the type of habit thinking we engage in. So I want, before we start that, let's just check in. How's everyone doing? Does anyone have anything they want to share or ask? Are you all just very quiet or very shy? I know the Vajrasattva group are really chatty and hello. All right, is there nothing? If there's nothing, then I'll just keep going. Okay. All right. So settle back into your meditation posture. Have a quick something to drink if you need to. I'm going to. We've got some heating going on here and I'm getting a bit thirsty. Okay. And I'm not complaining because it's dry. All right. Okay. So let's just settle back into your meditation posture, like a nice, comfortable seated position. Allow your spine to be neutral, shoulders aligned with the hips, ears over the shoulders. And just have your hands, I didn't mention them before, but just resting comfortably in your lap. Maybe you need to have them resting on the arms of your chair. Actually, if you do that, that might help prevent you from slumping forward. So if you need a little bit of support, if you're feeling a bit tired and you need a bit of support, you can actually just use that if you want. And just breathe and just notice areas of softness and ease. Just be in touch with all the different simple sensations in the body. You can start at the crown of the head. Notice the sensations there, the forehead, the eyes, the nose, the cheeks. Notice the sensations in the neck and the chest, your throat and back. Hands, maybe your hands are tingling a little bit. As we become, as we get more into meditation, we become a little bit more, our mind becomes a little bit more subtle, so we're a little bit more attuned to what's going on in the body. And just welcome the areas of softness and relaxation. And if you have some areas of tension or tightness, just acknowledge them. Let them be. And just for a moment, come back to the face and notice the sensations at your face. And are you tensing up your facial muscles at all? So just imagine releasing the face, allowing some softness to come into the face. And again, allow that softness to spread down on its own to the rest of the body, down to your extremities, to the hands, the fingers, the feet, and the toes. So amongst all these sensations, we might be noticing the breath as we inhale and exhale. So some of us will notice subtle sensations around our nostrils, where we can feel the air flowing in and out. Others might notice might be more apparent to others, the rising and the falling of the chest. But also remember, if you're focused on that area, you don't breathe just at the front. Your lungs, this is all 360 thing. Your lungs expand to the side, to the back. And for some of us, our backs can be a little bit tight, and particularly if there's a problem in the back, scoliosis or kyphosis. It's not going to be moving quite as readily. As we get older, everything gets a bit stiffer and tighter. So imagine as you're breathing, this is sort of like almost like a balloon inside, and it doesn't just get blown up at the front, it gets blown up sort of evenly around all sides. So physically it may not be available, but just imagine it happening, that you're breathing into the side of the ribs and the back of the ribs, as well as the front. And some of you may be feeling the rising and the falling of the belly. And so just allow yourself to fully experience your in-breath and your out-breath. And each time we notice ourselves breathing out, let's just use it as an opportunity to release. So just releasing anything that's unhelpful, unwanted, just the way we breathe out to let go of the stale air in our lungs. So you can regard your breath as a resting place for your concentration, for your mindful attention. It's a place where you can always come back. You can come back to this place at any time in order to steady yourself. Our breath, we have a very intimate relationship with our breath. It's with us from the moment we are born to the moment we die. So our introspection, remember our friend introspection from, I think, second session? And this introspection alerts us to the presence of our thoughts, the ones we're already involved in thinking. We turn our mindful attention to those thoughts that we are engaged in. We might want to mentally make a note, thinking, to be clear about what we have discerned. So just try that for a minute. And without getting entangled in the contents of those thoughts, we can very gently return our attention to the breath and release those thoughts on the out breath. And then again, when we recognize that our attention is drawn into thinking, take note of that as thinking and come back to the breath. Now, replace the label of thinking with others labels that better reflect the contents of your thoughts. So remember, as I said earlier, make them accurate and neutral in tone so we don't provoke any judgment towards ourselves. So, you might be remembering something, remembering a conversation, remembering an email. Or you might have just remembered, oh my goodness, I've got to do this, this, and this. So that can be planning. Then you can have maybe thinking about tomorrow, you might be worried about something that's going to happen but hasn't happened. And you might be just daydreaming away. You might be having some judgments about another person. We're going to do this for another 5 minutes. And during that time, if you find you've just kind of wandered off, if you've got a bit bored, just very gently bring your mind back to your breath and start again. So try not to jerk your mind. And you can even use the label, oh, I spaced out there a little bit. And bear in mind that this is totally normal and natural. And just relax. Oh, I wanted to ask you to think about, and if you'd like to share some of the experience that you had of discerning your thoughts. And were you able to apply different labels? Did you find this to change your relationship to your own thoughts or your relationship to the way you think? Or were you even able to recognize that you were thinking? And do you feel that it would be beneficial to keep practicing in that way? Anybody, any thoughts?
Yes, I think it's very beneficial. And a category that I came up with was attaching.
Oh,
I found myself, even before judging, attaching. And it's like when we do the Vajrasattva meditation and we focus on regret, it's very easy when we're in that mindset, regret, to start judging ourselves. And so that applies there too. I can think of labeling it attaching, judging, they're very similar. Attaching could be positive or negative, but once I label it, then I can step back from it a little and get disengaged from it. And I noticed that when we were doing this meditation.
that's wonderful. So so the first thing there is you're actually putting some space in between this kind of massive stream of thoughts that we have that continuously go through our mind. I'm also curious to know that you feel that when we get into regret, it can lead to judgment. That tells me a lot about perhaps how I should be talking about that particular part of the meditation. So, that's really interesting anyway. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
So, when you think about regret, so it's different to guilt, right? Guilt would be,
Yes.
oh, I'm a really bad person.
Yeah.
Regret is more like, oh, okay, but I can do something about it. And it's that kind of gives it a more positive slant. It always, it's so interesting to me. It always does worry me, that meditation, because it can lead to people giving themselves a hard time. And the whole thing about the Vajrasattva meditation is purification, which sort of presupposes that you've done something wrong to start with. So, but the thing is, the very nature of our human existence, we're not angels living up in the sky or celestial beings living in a pure land. We're engaging constantly in this world that, we might accidentally step on a nail, or we have a grumpy day and we say something we regret, or we eat something that we shouldn't eat, or you know what I mean? We forget to do our morning practice or something like that. It's a sort of the prisoners, when I went out to, sorry, I'm a little bit going off track here, but now you've raised it, I want to talk about it. When we were teaching the prisoners here at the Sierra Conservation and Rehabilitation Center, oh my goodness, what a name. I mean, you'd think that meant there was going to some caring towards the men, but it wasn't. But they had a very dear, very sweet chaplain called Trey Littlejohns, who I still communicate with on Facebook. But anyway, he was a very, very sweet man, very tall. They respected him enormously. And he invited us to come and teach. Anyway, I did Vajrasattva with them. And the look of relief on their face when I told them that, about this regret thing, and that the mantra and the whole practice would help purify some of their negative karma. See, I think they know they've done something wrong. It's obvious that the law said you did something wrong, you're going to prison. Well, most of them are in there because they did something wrong. Some got put in there because they were caught and they didn't do something wrong. But anyway, even that's a negative karma that needs to be purified. So their response to that is relief. Oh, phew. there's something I can do, because what they feel when they're in prison is that they're at the end of the road. They're at the bottom of the heap. No one cares about them in prison, mostly. They have nothing and no one once they've gone to prison. And when they come out, they also often have nothing and no one, very little. So their attitude is relief. Oh, wow, because it's out there for everyone to see and read what they did. But for us, it's a more internal process, we don't often do things that people can see that person did something wrong. We just know in our mind, or we have a memory of something that we did wrong. So I'm wondering, Susan, if you can think about regret a little bit differently. I mean, yeah, does that make any sense?
Yes, it does make sense. And sometimes I try to think of regret with, merge it with like rejoice that we're regretting.
Oh, cool.
Because
Okay.
then it elevates, you know.
So do you feel that maybe you're getting a little bit caught up in guilt there?
Probably.
Is guilt
Yeah. Yeah.
informing you? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that might be a place where we can use our discerning wisdom to make a distinction between guilt and regret. Because guilt is mea culpa. It's like, I'm so bad. I did this awful thing. I feel so awful.
I'm
Regret
ex-Catholic.
is a Catholic thing, right? I wasn't. We're Church of England in our family. Anyway, it's more, regret is more like just an acknowledgement to ourselves that we may have harmed either ourselves or another person. It's been done. There's many things we can do to try and repair these things, but we've also just got to recognize first that we did the thing, and not give ourselves a hard time about it, but just to sort of say, okay, well, I did it. Did we just lose someone? Or we did. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of, anyway, think about maybe the difference between regret and guilt. And so this is where we use our mindfulness. This is where we use our discerning wisdom, because it's like we're getting more and more refined now into the way we're thinking and to what we're recognizing as thinking. Does anyone else have anything they wanted to share with us? No? You guys are so...
I think of,
Who's that?
this is
Oh,
John.
it's John. Hi.
I think in a way, when I get into what may be called regret, I don't really think I regret. I think of it as this is my life path.
Hmm.
And I've been married and I've been divorced. And that wasn't a fun thing
I
for me.
bet.
But
Yeah.
I don't regret it. And I still love my ex-wife, but I also love my child, our child, that wouldn't, you know, if I regretted the marriage, what does that say about my child? So it's just, to me, it's just the life path that I can look at and go, this is me.
And that's an excellent way to look at it. And it does sound you were very fortunate to have a relationship with your previous wife whereby you could talk through the issues and have a fairly amicable separation. And you had a beautiful child, right? It wasn't? Oh, okay. But your friend...
No, that's
Oh.
why I wouldn't. That's why. That's why I wouldn't. That's why I go that path, is because I could easily regret that relationship.
Oh, I see.
My relationship, I really wanted to be like that, like as you described. And at a certain point in my life, I had to realize that this person is not my friend. And
Yeah.
so I need to let go of my path of trying to make this a relationship after the marriage, and let go of that and just rejoice with my son and enjoy that relationship. And I no longer have a relationship with my ex-wife. It's not
Oh, I
what
see.
it's not what I wanted, but it's at a certain point for me to be healthy, I had to realize this person doesn't belong in my life.
So you just let it go. You had to release it.
Right.
Mm.
And so that's my path. And it doesn't help to regret it or beat myself up for what I did wrong
Mm.
or tell myself I did everything right and they did everything wrong. I mean, none of that stuff is constructive in my mind. It's my path.
Mm. So I think the context in which Susan was talking was this context of Vajrasattva using what they call the four opponent powers. So Vajrasattva, have you heard of that meditation before?
I don't believe so. Or
Ah,
if I have, I've forgotten about it.
ah. So Vajrasattva is, one of the preliminaries in our tradition, and it's a purification practice. And Lama Yeshe used to say, all the nuns and monks need to do this. It's a 3-month retreat, 100,000 mantras, and it's a 100-syllable mantra. So the four opponent powers are starts with regret, and regret is where you first of all bring to mind all these things that are harmful, that you may have done that are harmful to yourself, like talking about your neighbor behind their back, all this kind of stuff. So things you may have done with your body, your speech, and your mind that may have harmed others. And again, it's also based on this other topic called the 10 non-virtues. So it's actually a lot, it's kind of very nuanced, this particular practice. And then you have the next of the four opponent powers is reliance. So this is where you bring to mind the reliance on the method of the Buddha Vajrasattva. And so there's a whole visualization that goes with that. And then you can also bring into mind your teacher. And then you also, there's a little section on compassion. So developing compassion, where you rely upon others, people that have harmed you, those of you have harmed, to try and have a wish for them to be free from suffering. And this is what it sounds like you're trying to do in your situation. And then you have the third of the four opponent powers is what they call the practice. And you recite the mantra. We do it 28 times, and it has four different visualizations in there. And then we come to the end, which is resolve, and then we make a determination to ourselves about, something that we might want to refrain from in the next 24 hours. So that is the context in which I was talking about regret with Susan. So the context that you're talking about very definitely doesn't help to go somewhere that when something's already finished. And particularly, in such a highly charged situation as a marriage where there's finances involved and children involved, it can get very triggering and can get very destabilizing. So the way in which it sounds as if you have managed that to keep yourself sane and to keep your heart open is to put boundaries around what it is you're prepared to think about and what you're not. And you've realized very clearly that there is no possibility of a relationship there. So you've moved on and you've moved forward and you're just allowing it. So there's no need for you to have any regret anyway. Unless you want to engage in the Vajrasattva practice, you might find things start to arise. But it's, does that make sense, what I've said? I think also too in the context of the Vajrasattva practice, what Susan was talking about makes sense. But in context of outside of that practice, I can see how it wouldn't make any sense to have regret. Like we have very often you hear in particularly in Tibetan Buddhism, these certain terms that don't really quite mean the same thing in our regular English language as they do in the Tibetan language. And also remember, it's been translated from Tibetan into English. So then it loses a bit of its flavor. So they chose to use the word regret for that first section, the first of the poor opponent powers. Maybe it has a different nuance in Tibetan. I don't know. But anyway, I hope that makes sense, and I hope it didn't make you feel in any way uncomfortable.
No, doesn't make me feel uncomfortable. I don't know if it makes sense to me without experiencing that a little bit, but
Okay.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay, good. And you're very welcome to come and join us if you want. It's on, we do 5 nights a week. So it's a kind of a fun practice that Stephanie comes and Marion comes. Oh, Kimberly comes as well. And Marge, do you come? Oh, are you the morning ones? Yeah, okay. And Susan comes, actually. So it's kind of if you are into, if you're going to start moving down the Tibetan Buddhist path, it's a good one to do. It's a fun one to do. But anyway, it becomes definitely a working with the mind kind of a practice as well, which is what I think Tibetan Buddhism really does focus on, is working with the mind, which is what we're doing here. Anyway, let's get back because time is running. So the next thing we're doing is analytical meditation. So we're talking about mindfulness in support of functional thinking and evaluation. So we're actually going to do a meditation on loving kindness, which I think is a good one to follow up, particularly from both of you, John and Susan, your comments about, your different understanding of what regret is. And it's also been very enlightening for me to hear both of you talk, because it means that everybody is seeing that word and seeing that practice differently. So that is really, really helpful for me anyway, as someone who's delivering that meditation. So I really want to thank you very much for speaking. So everybody remember that if you've got something on your mind, even no matter how little it is, it can be very, very helpful for everybody, and also particularly for me. So if you do have anything you want to share, please don't feel shy. Okay. Okay. So, we pay attention to an object of interest. So say your loved one. And it's very easy for you to examine it and evaluate it in detail, in general. And this kind of evaluation involves thinking. So you apply concepts and reasoning to gain a better understanding of the object. So, when you're learning something from new, or when you receive something from Amazon, like an electronic thing, and you have to figure out how to put it together and how does this thing work and which way up does the battery go. So you read the instructions. So this is called analytical meditation. But we're going to move on to loving kindness. So bring to mind a loved one. So you can settle back into your meditation posture if you wish, and allow a visual image of that person to appear to you. Now you are attending to this person with mindfulness. And you can further reflect on and examine what we know about this person. And we may be thinking about their good qualities and their many loving, kind actions towards us and others. And then, this helps to write, little feelings of loving kindness, heartfelt feelings start to arise. And then in this way, mindfulness, reflection upon that person and discerning wisdom have all contributed to enhance the wonderful quality of loving kindness in your heart. And we can also apply this same process to ourselves, and making ourselves the focal object of our own reflection and practice of loving kindness. And I think this is beneficial for everyone to do. So practicing mindfulness and discerning wisdom not only allows us to inquire and gain a better understanding of the object under consideration, so, for the loved one, we can also nurture the positive qualities and give mindful attention to them. So it's almost like you can, once you've recognized something, maybe a good quality that you have within yourself, so one of the things that John mentioned was where he was able to go with his experience of divorce. It's like he was very clear what was working for him and what wouldn't work for him. So we are always only able to do what we can do, and to be able to recognize our own limits is an incredibly useful skill. It takes a lot of, actually it takes courage, it takes intelligence, it takes wisdom. So then you can direct this towards yourself as well. So you want to nurture the positive qualities that have arisen as a result of reflecting upon your own positive qualities and giving mindful attention to them. So what we'll do is we have a few simple phrases that best convey our understanding of what it means to love and to be kind. And we will repeat these phrases during the meditation, and they become thoughts that express our loving intention and serve as support for our mindful attention to return, especially when we are distracted. So in between our mindful repetition of the phrases of loving kindness, we can actively engage in reflection on the various reasons that can be the basis for extending loving kindness and loving concern towards ourselves. So bring to mind your own good qualities, your own wholesome deeds, your own natural desire to be happy that is universal. And by the way, we actually deserve to be happy. And we'll come to that. So as you're doing this, I want you to become aware of maybe if there are any obstacles, such as not having any loving feelings or not finding any convincing reasons to love oneself. Have a little think about that. And maybe ask yourself why is there a little bit of a resistance to that? Maybe you overcome it, so maybe you would like to share how you did that. So in order to facilitate the arising of genuine loving kindness towards ourselves, in between our repetition of the phrases of loving kindness, which we'll get to in a minute, we're going to pause and reflect on the basis of having ourselves as the recipient of our own kindness and loving concern. So we can see that we are just like everybody else in that we all want to be happy and we don't want to suffer, and just reflect on the validity of this. It is true. Deep down, I really want to be happy and I really don't want to suffer. And we can also recollect other reasons to strengthen this quality of loving kindness towards ourselves. For some of us, this could be seeing the goodness within us, For others, it could be sensing our yearning for love or remembering past experiences of happiness and wishing that for ourselves. And for some of us, no reason is needed for extending love and kindness to ourselves. So what I want you to do before we start this is to bring to mind, imagine you're writing a list. You're writing a reference for yourself. And I want you to think of all your good qualities, all the things that you can do, all the things that when people are praising you, what do they say about you? How smart you are, how good you are with people, how kind you are to animals, how generous you are with your time, with your resources. So let's just meditate for a couple of minutes about all the positive qualities that we have within us. And don't be shy. Don't hold back. You know, there's no way we're going to become, you know, idealistically over enthusiastic. It's very rare, actually. So now just return your attention to your own body and be in touch again with the simple sensations in order to settle ourselves. So notice the areas of softness. Check in with the sensations of your face and just release any tension there. And the eyes, the nose, the cheeks, the mouth, the jaw, the back of the tongue. Just allow some softness there. And we can allow this softening and relaxing to spread on its own to the rest of our body and just help it settle into meditation in its own time. So moving on to the meditation on loving kindness towards ourselves, we choose a few simple phrases. This best expresses our understanding of what it means to love, to care, and show concern. So we start with these stock phrases, but you, of course, as you move forward with this meditation, if you choose to continue to do it, you can, of course, choose phrases that work for you maybe a little bit better. So we start with, may I live in safety. So this is wishing oneself to feel safe and have security in life. May I be happy. Wishing oneself to feel joy, cheerfulness, and happiness in the mind and heart. May I be healthy. Wishing oneself to enjoy physical health and well-being. May I live with ease. Wishing one's daily life and work flows to be smooth and easy. So may I live in safety. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. So just repeat these phrases to yourself, just for a minute or two in your mind, slowly, mindfully, at your own pace, and stay connected to the intentions behind the words and extend loving kindness towards yourselves. And just come back to the phrases when you are feeling distracted. And don't worry too much if you're not feeling particularly loving. And we can allow our heart plenty of time to respond in its own way. And we can rely on the words to guide our heart towards loving kindness. When on occasions the nice warm feelings of love and kindness arise, we can entwine them among the phrases and then offer them to ourselves. May I live in safety. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. Mm. So you can actually think about other ideas, other things that activate loving kindness towards ourselves. So you might see the goodness within yourself. Actually, it's there within all of us. It's actually who we really are. Some of us choose not to believe it, to feel it, to see it. Some people might remember past experiences of real happiness and wish those to continue, and others might sense this yearning for love within. May I live in safety. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. And everybody, you can relax. Just want to find out how that was for people. And did you have any difficulty applying these positive thoughts towards yourself?
No difficulty at all for me. It was very, very deeply relaxing.
Oh, good. Glad to hear.
Yeah.
Excellent. That's wonderful. But you've done this before, though. It's not the first time, I don't think, right?
No, I've done it before, but I usually don't think to do it on my own.
Oh, okay.
So I'm
So
glad we did it.
So, I mean, I don't believe in homework, but if you guys would like to practice it over the week and just see how it goes. Earth is laughing away there. We can do it on Monday, Earth, and then everyone gets to practice it. It's a good one, I think. Because I think part of the problem is we don't feel that we deserve any of those things. How was it for everyone else? Gitu, you want to say hi?
No, it was my husband decided to do some drumming at his loudest. So I had to go hunt for my noise canceling headphones.
Did it make any difference?
Yeah.
The noise cancellation headphones. So then how was the meditation for you?
It took me a while to get back.
Oh, after the drumming.
Yeah.
Is he good at drumming?
He's loud.
Okay. I guess that's one way to get all your frustrations out, is to do some drumming practice. Sorry, I've got some hip issue going on here, so I'm a bit fidgety. I beg your pardon. Okay. Cheryl, did you want to say something?
Hi, Miss Kathy. Yes,
Hi.
I'm very thankful to be here with
Oh, good.
everyone.
Nice to have you.
Likewise, thank you. And the same thing, I think my son coming in, he's 7-year-old and he's full of energy, tapping my shoulder. I'm rejoicing, Mama. I'm rejoicing. Oh, rejoice. Okay, that's a good word. It's a relation of meditation. But I'm on meditation, honey. So, but all the good things and little things that I reflected today, it's makes my heart bigger. And I think saying prayer to the people that's experienced the war and praying and keep sending positive vibes is truly matter. And I'm thankful to be a part of meditation today. It's taking a time and taking a practice to really deep focus, but I was thankful to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm very, thank you for sharing that too, because I'm often not aware of what's going on in people's homes.
Yes.
So, of course, Marge has a very enthusiastic cat that was coming. Gitu has a drumming husband, and then you have a 7-year-old child. We actually, in our Vajrasattva group, we have one of the hosts, Shayla, has I think he must be about 4 or 5 now, grandson called Source. And Source is often climbing all over her during meditation. When he was younger, he used to sort of sit and listen to it, but now he's got a little bit older. It's not so interesting to him anymore. But anyway, thank you for sharing that. It's really good to know. I'm glad you had a good experience. All right, everyone. I wanted to do, before we finished, Chenrezig, a little Chenrezig meditation, but we might not be able to do the whole thing because we've got 10 minutes left. So then let's just,
May I ask a question quickly?
Yeah, of course.
In the last meditation, does forgiveness come into that one also?
Yeah. I mean, you could definitely include that, like forgiveness for yourself.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. That's beautiful, John. Thank you. All right. I'm going to. Does everybody know Om Mani Padme Hum? Does everyone know that mantra? You'll get it anyway. We're going to chant it with each other. I just saw a message. Hang on one sec. Oh, Net's gone. All right. He said thank you. That's very sweet. All right. He had to go. Okay. So what we're going to do is just again, you can maybe just start by bringing to the crown of your head, because I don't think everybody here is Tibetan Buddhist. So just bring to the crown of your head this ball of white light. And just imagine this light contains all the goodness and all the compassion and all the kindness, the brilliance, the wisdom, the creativity in the universe. And just imagine that light then just to kind of dissolves into you through the crown of your head, comes down to your heart. And just imagine now it expands all through your body. And so all of your body becomes this beautiful white light. So all the dark parts of the body, the veins, the cells, the bones, the hair on your skin, the skin, everything becomes this beautiful iridescent white light. And you're just infused with the brilliance and the kindness, the forgiveness, the warmth, the love, the support of the universe. Now you've taken care of yourself, you can start thinking about sending this love out to others as we recite this mantra. Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 So just allow that mantra to settle in your heart. Imagine it settling like snow on people's minds, on their lives, in their hearts. That you're sending light and love out with that mantra to the universe and beyond. And then we just kind of seal this whole practice, all the goodness, all the positive qualities that we've created, all the creative energy that we've generated during this meditation practice. So we've kind of come together in this little group and we've done this practice together. And we just dedicate all that beautiful energy to all those people of our life, to all sentient beings, to all the people in those war zones who are suffering so much, to all the people in their homes who are kind of trapped in difficult relationships they can't get out of. So just think of sending out all this love, all this energy to people that need it, to animals that need it, beings that need it. And then just wish for His Holiness the Dalai Lama to live long and to be able to continue to teach. And then think of, because Lama Zopa Rinpoche is our teacher, he passed some time ago, so strong wish for Rinpoche to return quickly in the new form of a reincarnation, and then for all your own precious teachers who, give us so much. And everybody, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Stephanie and Urs, Ocean of Compassion. And thank you, Gitu. You're so patient there, practicing with all that drumming going on in the background. For all those who with cats and children and drumming, well done. You got through 2 hours. It's called practicing patience. And Stephanie, are you cold, my friend?
I'm freezing.
I'm sorry, what's
I've been
happened?
going on and off camera. I apologize to everyone because I did a really strong hike today and my hips have been bothering me. So when I'm on camera, I've been stretching.
Oh,
So
well done.
yeah.
So, you don't have heating in your house?
We do have heating in the house. I've just gotten cold, so I grabbed a blanket.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
All right.
But it's gonna snow this evening. So
Oh, it's probably very cold. Yes. All right. Well, I'm
yeah,
glad
no,
that you
I'm
shared.
excited. Lots of snow. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, nice to see you there, Marion. And Nancy, Kimberly, and Cheryl, Mina. Thank you. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Urs again. Thanks, Marge. Thanks, John. Say hi to Millie. And Gitu. And we will be hybrid. So I'll be in person at Ocean of Compassion on the 24th, whatever it was we said. So
Yes.
it's lovely if people come in person. It's really nice to see you there. So if you can make it, do come.
And Venerable Katie, thank you again so much. This
My
was such
pleasure.
a
Thank you.
beautiful meditation, and your adaptability to who is here and our experiences and pulling us into it is really
Oh, thank you.
just great.
Anyway, thank you very much, everybody, for your attention. Thank you for all the things that you've shared. It's always really, really helpful to hear what's going on in people's lives. It's helpful. Okay. Lots of love, everybody. See you on the 24th.
Thank you.
If I
Thank
don't
you.
see you before. Okay. Thank you. Bye,
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
everyone. Thank
Bye.
you.